Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be diving into our twin pregnancy and birth story. So our story is interesting in that our pregnancy ended at 25 weeks. We had our twins very early, and it's a whole long in-depth story. So when we did our Q&A last time, we decided that this needed its own video. So we are going to just jump right in to the day that we found out we were pregnant. So we had been trying to conceive for
off and on for a while.
For like 3-ish years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one morning it was, my little...
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
So she would take the prenatals, right? And so, and so at the end of the day, it was just this, like a fistful of medicine for all of us. Yeah. So she had all her vitamins, and I'd have like my allergy pills and my aspirins or whatever. And so I went and I rounded everything up, and then on the way to bed to hand them to her, I just popped them all up. So I had the prenatals, the vitamins, I had all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, she found out she was pregnant. Yeah. So I don't think that's how prenatals are supposed to work, but...
Just have your husband take a prenatal.
Just accidentally take 17 pills.
You'll be pregnant.
Sorry.
But yeah, we had been trying to conceive off and on for 3 years, and then finally it just happened. I woke up one morning, my app told me it was time to take a pregnancy test, so I took the pregnancy test and it was positive, and I was like, oh my God. So we had several instances where I thought I might be pregnant. So like I was prepared to tell Josh. I had a bucket with one of his childhood toys that his mom had given us. And I had like a girl shirt and a boy shirt that said like dad, something about dad. Mm-hmm. And so I always wake up before Josh, and this was a work day. So I got up, I was getting ready, and I put it like on like right next to the sink in the bathroom so he would see it when he first walked in.
I think I was brushing my teeth or something. And I looked over, and there's this bucket full of like kids' toys and kids' clothes and a little stick covered in pee. Mm-hmm. And as I think, I just repeated myself over and over again. I think it was like, is this for real?
Are you sure?
For real? For real?
Really?
Is this real? For real? For real? And I just like run into the room. And yeah.
It was awesome. That was a great day. So once we found out we were pregnant, we carried right on. We made our doctor's appointment for the normal, I think, 8 weeks out. But then we got to the 6 week... the 6 week point in the pregnancy, and I woke up and I was bleeding. Not like a crazy amount, but like enough for me to be like alarmed. And so I called the doctor, and they were like, okay, let's do this. Come in and we'll do a round of blood testing. So you'll do one, I think it was on a Monday, and then you'll come back in on the Wednesday, and then on the Friday you can come in, and if everything looks good, we'll do a ultrasound. So I went in, got my blood work done Monday, and they're basically just checking your progesterone levels to make sure that they're increasing. At least I think. Don't quote me on that. But
I'm not a marine biologist.
No, you're not. So I went out on Monday, I went in on Wednesday, and then Friday they said, your levels are increasing appropriately. We're going to go ahead and do the ultrasound just to make sure everything's okay and safe and everything's fine. And so we're at like the 7 week point at this point, and we go in. Josh comes with me because we're going to do the ultrasound, and it's the first one. So we go in, the lady finds the baby, and we're looking at the baby, and it's so cute. And we kind of told the story in our Q&A too. But then she goes, huh. And we were like, what? What, huh?
I don't want to hear, huh?
And she said, there's another baby. And then I said some expletives to the ultrasound tech. I apologize, whoever you are. But I basically told her to shut up.
Yeah.
And Josh sat silently like stark white. And then after that, we like laughed for 30 minutes. They did tell us at that appointment that baby B was very small, and that the chances of baby B making it were very slim at that point. So we were cautiously excited.
Yeah.
I think we...
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, we thought the idea of twins was cool, but we weren't going to get our hopes up. And then we were going to go back at our 8 week appointment. So we went back at 8 weeks. We had another ultrasound because at this point we do have a multiple pregnancy. And so basically with a multiple pregnancy, you kind of get spoiled a little bit. You get an ultrasound every time you go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And you're almost immediately classified as high risk. And so you also get to go to a second doctor and get even more ultrasounds. So you get to see your kids a lot, which is very reassuring and very nice. I know with traditional like singleton pregnancies, you don't get an ultrasound every time. You get it like major milestones, like once a trimester, and then a little bit more towards the end. But for us, we got one every single time. So we went at 8 weeks. Both babies were still there. Baby B's still very small. Don't get your hopes up. So at this point, we waited until the 12 week point to go back. And then at that point, we had a double appointment. So we had our appointment with our traditional OB. Baby B had grown quite significantly at that point. And it was pretty certain that we were going to have twins.
Yeah.
The next several weeks of our pregnancy were fairly normal pregnancy stuff. So my symptoms throughout pregnancy, I was extremely exhausted the first trimester. Like, we were putting up Christmas decorations and I fell asleep on the couch. Like, I could fall asleep anywhere at any time. I was so tired.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't be awake. It
Lots
was
of napping.
not possible. I was fairly nauseous, but I never actually threw up. And my nausea did kind of stay towards the morning hours. And I didn't have any like serious aversions or...
No, I don't recall.
No. But I was really into sour food.
You were really into sour food.
And sweet food. Like,
Yeah,
all of a sudden, like, I normally wasn't like a big sweets person until I was pregnant. And then I wanted all of the cakes.
The little cosmic brownies and pineapple and like
Chunks of frozen pineapple.
And you didn't mess around with pineapple before that. Or after that, really.
No.
But I can't remember anything like, I know you held it together pretty well, but I don't think your nausea got too terrible. You were mostly just sleepy and hungry. And then you always wanted to eat, but then you wouldn't eat, and you just go to take a nap instead.
Yeah. I was too tired to like lift a fork and put it into my mouth.
We should get Chinese food.
So at the 22-week mark, we had an appointment with our high-risk doctor, a standard appointment, but this was like an in-depth scan. So they were going to be measuring all of the baby's arms and limbs, their torso, their hearts, their lungs, their brains, their livers. Like, they were checking and measuring everything. So with two of them, it was a very extensive appointment. And Rory is, and still is, a camera hog. And so I remember at that appointment, because they take like a video and they actually like send you the video afterwards, but it was Jack's turn and they were trying to measure his heart like chambers, and Rory just like starts sitting on Jack's face repeatedly and just like butt to face up, butt to face up. And then they're trying to like measure something else with Jack, and Rory's like hands are coming in, like, no, me, don't forget about me. So getting pictures of Rory stuff, very smooth, easy, no problem. But when it came Jack's turn, it was a lot harder for them to get everything because Rory.
And he, like during Rory's turn too, he was like, you can tell he was like,
he was like posing,
voguing, and
it's really cute. But so they also checked my cervix at that point, and it was still completely closed. There was no concerns there, because what they do find with multiple pregnancies is that sometimes you have to have what they call a cerclage, where your cervix starts to open a little bit.
Like a pastry.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's not. Your cervix starts to open prematurely, and so they stitch it closed. But yeah,
that's not something Paul Hollywood would approve of.
Nope. But my cervix was still completely closed. Everything was fine. That Monday, our pregnant weeks increased on Mondays. So on that next Monday,
they did.
we were 24 weeks. And so we got up, we went to work, everything was fine. It was a really, really busy, like, hectic day, and I had a meeting at noon, and I stood up from my desk and started walking to the meeting, and I was like, did I just pee myself? Gross. But I didn't really have time to deal with it. So I went to my meeting, had my meeting, left my meeting, went to Josh's desk, and because we, again, work in the same place, and at this point we were both in office. And I went to his desk and I was like, I think I peed myself. And he was like, that's gross.
That's nasty.
So I went to the bathroom. It was just like it looked like a little pee, fine, whatever.
It was funny.
Clean it up, move on about your life. So then the rest of the day was pretty normal. We got in the car to come home, and I peed myself a little bit more. And so I was like, Josh, I'm disgusting. Like, being pregnant is so gross. Like, why is my body doing this? And I was like, you don't think it's like something different, do you? And he was like, no, you're just peeing yourself. You weirdo.
People are gross.
Yeah. So I came home and I'm like, I have to take a shower before we do anything else. And then I was gonna make dinner, and I was gonna watch Real Housewives. And I was super pumped about it. So I go to get in the shower. I go to take
super pumped about my stories.
Yeah, really pumped about the Real Housewives. I think it was like a reunion or something. Probably. Like, it was something good, and I was really
work was
really
over.
Excited.
You were done peeing yourself. It's time to be comfortable.
Absolutely. So I go to take my shower, and I go to take my pants off, and like, again, more pee, but it's clear, very clear, and it doesn't feel like I'm peeing.
It was like viscous, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Viscous.
So, okay, that's probably not normal, but okay, I'm gonna take a shower. We'll deal with it after. So I take a shower. I cook dinner. Josh and I were talking about it, and he was like, "We need to go to the doctor. Like, we can't mess around with this. We need to go to the doctor." I'm like, "I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. So this is like 7 p.m. I have a doctor's appointment at 8 a.m. Like, it's 12 hours. It's fine. Everything's fine." And he was like, "No, we need to go." And I was like, "Let's call the on-call doctor and see what they say, because maybe they'll agree with me, because I knew I was right?" So we call the on-call doctor, and he was like, "Yeah, you need to come in." So we get in, we do the whole registration thing, and they take us back to like, we're in like legitimate mother-baby, like labor and delivery wing at the hospital.
Yeah.
So we go back to the room, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna check to see if it's amniotic fluid." And so they have this little like pH tester or something, and if it turns purple, it's positive for amniotic fluid. The water is my water has ruptured essentially. And so they barely like touched me with it, and it's purple.
Yeah, they like took it out the bag.
And they're like just the room turned purple. And so like, okay, so your water's definitely ruptured. Again, I'm 24 weeks this day. And they're like, we're going to have to call an ambulance and have you transferred. And I was like, beg pardon? Like, I have to leave here. I have to go to an ambulance? Like, I'm in a hospital. You need to call 911 to come get me? Like, it was so bizarre. So they call 911. And I've never been in an ambulance before. For any reason, and it was the worst like 45 minutes of my whole life. So, which is really dramatic. But I have a typically like low blood pressure. My blood pressure is never very high. But halfway through the ambulance ride, because I just kind of like lay there, and the EMTs,
two really nice guys.
They were so nice,
was Josh.
And they took my blood pressure like halfway through, which was the whole point of me riding an ambulance, is so they could like take my blood pressure 3 times or something, which to me seemed absolutely absurd and like a huge waste of money and whatever. So they took my blood pressure halfway through, and at that point in my head, I was like real irritated that any of this was happening. I didn't understand what was going on.
You were in full-blown denial too.
I was completely in denial, and so I was just mad.
Yeah.
I was just mad that this was happening. I just wanted to watch Housewives and lay on the couch. Like, I didn't understand what was going on or really how serious it was. I think.
I don't think we were letting ourselves think.
So my blood pressure was really high. And the guy was like, "Are you okay? Like, are you uncomfortable?" I'm like, yeah. I'm in a metal box driving down the road. I'm kind of uncomfortable and I'm frustrated. And so my blood pressure went up, and he's like, "We need to calm down." So whatever. So I chilled out. We get to the hospital, and they put me in this like tiny triage closet.
Like the size of...
It's a closet.
Oh, this closet, yeah.
So it's me, Josh, because he got there like, I think you beat us there.
I remember passing you guys, and I was like, hurry up. I was mad at them.
So it was me, Josh, a nurse, and 2 doctors in this tiny closet. They're like poking me and prodding me. They're going to give me a shot of magnesium to try and slow everything down. And if you've never had magnesium before, it's basically like someone lights your whole body on fire instantly. Like, I was boiling from the inside out. And so now I'm hot. You
were hot to the touch. Like, it was like,
I'm in a closet.
Yeah.
I'm
surrounded by bodies.
I'm really frustrated. I don't know what's going on at this point. I at that point definitely didn't understand what was happening.
No, and
at this point it's like midnight. And I'm tired.
In our first hospital, like it's not that they didn't prep us, but they're like, we don't know
what they're gonna do. They
so
can't
it was
make
just
those decisions.
a couple of hours of like, okay, this is bad, but when do I get to go home?
Right. I in no way, shape, or form thought that I would, 1, be getting in an ambulance, 2, be going to another hospital, and 3, be spending the night anywhere.
Yeah.
So he went home, got our stuff. You were back in like 45 minutes.
I did a lot of speeding that day. So we spent the night there, and by the time you got back, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning. Probably.
So we went to sleep, got up the next morning, and at this point I'm like, okay, I think everything's fine. Sure, that magnesium worked. Now we get to go home. So the doctor comes in, and they were like, okay, so we're gonna move you to a long-term room, and I'm like,
big word.
A what? A lot. Like, what do you mean? And they're like, you're not leaving this hospital until those babies are out of you. And I was like, but I'm 24 weeks pregnant. Like, there's still a long time. They're like, but your water ruptured. It's literally not safe for you to go. It could cause infection. Like, amniotic fluid does replenish itself, but if it's ruptured, it's going to consistently leak until the babies are out. And so that was when it hit me, like,
this is it.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll never be outside of a hospital as a person who isn't a mom.
Yeah. Like everything. Yeah. You. I think, and then like your pregnancy wasn't over, but you're like, all right, my pregnancy is kind of over. Like, not mom Bethany is done. It's a weird. Yeah. It's a weird thing to.
So we got an ultrasound that day, and they moved us to my long-term room, which was very nice.
It wasn't.
And which my long-term room was right outside of the NICU. And so at that point, they start talking to you about like what is going to happen. So you're going to be here for, at that point, I was going to be there for 10 weeks. Because I think it was 34 weeks is when they would induce labor if I hadn't gone into it on my own at that point. Because at that point, it wouldn't be safe to keep them in any longer because of the rupture, because they would be getting so big and taking up so much space, it just wouldn't be safe. So I had a 10-week clock, and I would be in the hospital for all 10 weeks until the babies were born. I moved into my long-term room, unpacked. Josh brought me like 4 boxes of cosmic brownies. So I had those stashed, and I decided I would be working from the hospital. So again, we have the ability to work from home, which has been so great during this pandemic, and it was great at this point in time too, because I was still able to work. At that point, I had a much more high-profile job, and so I wasn't prepared to be on maternity leave at this point. Like, I still had a lot of,
You had a lot of
balls in
clients
the air.
yeah.
So I was able to work from the hospital, and I would get up in the morning at the hospital, and because they came in and did like the temperature, the blood pressure,
That
et cetera, et
band
cetera.
thing.
Yeah.
Remember that band thing?
And they had like the band where they monitor the baby's heart rates and things like that. So they would come in and do that often, and so I would get up really early and just work, and then just kind of like hang out in my room at night. And I discovered the pepperoni pizza was delicious, and then they also had chocolate cake.
The chocolate cake was really good too.
It was so good. So that's what I did. Friday comes, Josh comes right after work, and like the whole way there, I'm like tracking his location like an obsessive person, because I'm like, get here, I can't wait for you to get here. So he came, they let him take me in a wheelchair down to the cafeteria to get different food, and then like right outside my room was like the courtyard,
yeah.
area, and so like every day I was like looking out that window, like to be outside and like breathe fresh air. So he took me on a walk in the courtyard that weekend.
We planned where your escape would be.
How do we get out?
Figuring out how to like Andy Dufresne your way out of that place.
Yep.
Already like a weekend. You're like,
A weekend. I was
do
like,
it.
how do I get out of here? Sunday, March 11th. So we finished having dinner with my uncles, and everybody was leaving, and I just had to poop, and I just wanted them all to go. So my uncles left, and then Josh was kind of like hanging around. Neither one of us wanted him to leave, but then like I also really wanted him to leave because I had to poop. And so it was around 7 p.m. You left, and I was like, okay, good, I can poop. Well, I couldn't poop.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I'm so constipated, it hurts. And I'm not really one to like ever ask for help or anything. So I was like, I'm fine. I'm in a hospital, but no, let's not mention it. So
hospital for
yeah.
something, yeah.
So Josh texts me and tells me that I think it was Beauty and the Beast is on channel
Yeah, as I was
something.
walking out the lobby, I was like, Beauty and the Beast is on channel.
So I put it on, and I laid in bed, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try to get comfortable. And throughout that period, I just kept trying to go poop, and I just couldn't make it happen. So I settled into sleep, and it just kept getting worse. Like, it was waking me up in the night, and finally around like 2 a.m, I paged for the nurse, and I was like, I'm really constipated. I'm in a lot of pain. What can we do? And at this point, I had been taking a stool softener every single day. It's just something they give you. I don't know why, but I've been taking it every single day. It's just, you really shouldn't be constipated at this point, because I had been in for almost 7 whole days. And so she's like, I'm gonna call the doctor and have them just come in and check, but for now we're gonna put the little monitors on for the babies and just see if we can listen to them. So they put the baby monitors on, and the doctor came in and they were gonna check my cervix to make sure everything was still sealed up. And
sorry.
it's not pleasant. It happened a few times that day. So they came in, checked my cervix, still sealed up, and I wasn't reading. So the monitors was like one monitor for one baby, one monitor for another baby, and then a monitor for contractions. And nothing was reading for the contractions. I was still sealed up. Maybe I need to poop. So they left, and I'm like, okay, so everything's fine. I can calm down. I still have to poop, but it's fine. So I kept trying to sleep, and it just wasn't working. So around 5 in the morning, I was like, I'm just gonna get to work. So I got up, got in my little office chair, put on my laptop, and just started working. And the babies were moving around like crazy. Like, they had been moving, and I had felt them move for a couple of weeks at this point, but they were just like little tornadoes.
Jumping jacks and army crawl. And...
Like, it was nuts in there, and I still was having this like tremendous like cramping pain. And so I called for the nurse again. The doctor came in again, and this was like 5:36 in the morning, and they checked the cervix again, still closed. So I go back to working, and it just keeps getting crazier. So Josh had left his t-shirt in the room, so I put his t-shirt on. I put on like his sleepy time playlist and like put it right next to my belly, and I was like, whatever you two need, just calm down, because this is not okay. I don't know what's going on. And this just progressively got worse as the day went on. So around 2 p.m, I was like, I need to be in bed. I cannot sit up anymore. The pain is too severe. The pain had then radiated to my back. So it was like the whole midsection was just cramping, and I'm still trying to poop. I'm still constipated. Nothing is happening. And so the nurse comes in. I have this big conference call meeting at like 3 o'clock. So I'm on the call, and around 3:30, the nurse comes in just to check on me. And at this point, they had put the belly bands on again. It was time to do that test, like, not test, but it was time to just check and make sure everything was still okay in there. And so she had put them on me, and I was in like so much pain. I had like doubled over into the fetal position and obviously knocked off all of the things. And so she comes in and she was like, okay, we're calling the doctor. And I'm like, no, we're not. it's fine. I just have to poop. Like, why won't anyone listen to me about the poop thing? Well, I took myself off mute during the huffle kerfuffle, and the people in the other room comments were like, Bethany, we're hanging up because we can hear you.
She's like, no.
And so
they heard, we're calling the doctor. We're taking you to the doctor.
And so they hang up on me. And they're like, and the doctor comes in and she's like, we're going to take you to labor and delivery. And I was like, for what? I literally just have to poop. And so they're like, just go ahead and grab what you want. They bring in a wheelchair. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm texting Josh and I'm like, please come. They're taking me to labor and delivery. Did I call you?
No. So no one told me at the office that I worked at about that conference call.
Yeah.
No one told me like, hey, by the way, they're taking your wife to labor and delivery. You didn't tell me because I was leaving for the day.
Yeah.
Which was probably around 3:30. I think I was leaving early or something.
Because it wasn't until 4-ish.
Okay. So I was leaving for the day and I was texting you. I was like, man, I'm going to get so much stuff done at home. I'm so excited to go home and like knock off a bunch of the to-do list. And you're like, get to the hospital. Mm-hmm. So that's how I found out you were.
Yeah. So, because again, I
like,
still just think I have to poop. So they're taking me to labor and delivery. And they like put pillows in my pillow, like in my lap. And I am sobbing. And a nurse who had been taking care of me like 2 days before, something was like charting in the hallway of labor and delivery and like sees me sobbing. And she comes in and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm here. I just have to poop. And she was like, honey, you don't have to poop.
That's not poop.
You're in labor. These are contractions. You don't have to poop. You're going to have these babies. And I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And so now I'm crying more because I'm realizing like I'm an idiot. Of course this is labor. Like, no wonder I couldn't poop. You don't have to poop, lady. Like, you're in labor. Yeah. And so Josh is there minutes. Again, it's like a 40-minute drive. But he was there.
A lot of speed. Not only were you in denial, but you were like successfully turning me and your mom.
Yeah, so my mom and Josh, they were like, yeah, Bethany gets constipated sometimes. This is exactly what it's like. It wakes her up in the middle of the night. She's in so much pain. But I think when my mom, she tells this story a lot, when she was like, okay, Bethany. So I'm like in pain. They tell me I can't roll over. I have to stay on my back. They did give me more magnesium at this point to, again, try to slow everything down. So I'm on fire and I'm like having a contraction, constipation contraction. Sure. And I grabbed the handles on the bed and my mom was like, you looked like the Hulk. Like, I thought you were going to rip the arms off of the bed.
They were creaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? So I think at that point you both kind of turned.
Yeah, I don't think I actually believed it, but I was like telling the room, I was like, I've seen this before. We were at Disney and we had to have the doctor come, the room doctor. And I was like, this is poop. I've been here, but don't worry guys, this is poop.
This is just poop.
And I was telling her, I was calling her, I was calling myself, but like, if I would have stopped and thought about it and like looking back at it, like, that ain't poop.
No, but at the same time, like, you're on the phone with your parents in the hallway, Mitch and Darren show up.
Yeah.
And so at one point, it's Josh, my mom, my two uncles, and the doctor comes in and they're like, we're going to check your cervix. Do you want anyone to leave? And I was like, I don't care. Just do what you have to do and make it go away. So at this point, I'm 3 centimeters dilated. So all those other checks we had completely sealed shut. And now it's like 6 or, no, it's got to be later than that. It was probably like 8-ish. I'm 3 centimeters.
Yeah, 8 sounds about right.
And so they're like, do you want an epidural? And I was like, yeah, sure do. And so the anesthesiologist comes in to do the epidural, and the nurse is trying to get them to do the epidural with me laying down. And they're like, no, we can't do it. And so I have to sit up. And so I sit up, which was a process. And I could just feel it. Like, I could feel the, like, gravity. I don't know. I can't even describe it, but it just, like, I felt something happen. So they do the whole thing. Like, Josh is like holding me in front. They put the epidural in. Super successful. Within seconds, I felt completely better. But I laid back down. The doctor came in immediately after. Like, she was waiting at the door. I laid back down, and I was 10 centimeters dilated. And so they were like, okay, we have to go to the OR. Because, again, I have twins. I'm only 25 weeks pregnant at this point. And so you have to go to the OR. They attempt a natural birth first, but you have to be there just in case things go sideways and you have to have a C-section. So they take me to the OR. You like stayed with me for a minute, but then you had to like peace out to go get your dad's suit.
Yeah, I love that suit. So it's just those paper suits, right? But it was like, I felt like it was like my dad's uniform, and then like you could like when you like ran like the Flash, it's hard to do on the screen.
Yeah,
swishy. And so I remember, but I was also like terrified. And the nicest little nurse lady, she was telling me like to put it on. She was handing it to me, and I'm just like falling over in the hallway, and she was like, you gotta take your shoes off, Dad. And I was like, oh. So I was just trying to
put pants on with shoes on.
She was so nice.
So they wheeled me to the OR, and when you're having babies who were gonna immediately be transferred to the NICU, which we were, and we had 2 of them. It was like packed in there.
Each baby had a team.
Each baby had a whole team of 4 people. So they had a respiratory therapist, a nurse, a doctor, and an NP, a nurse practitioner. So each of them had 4, and they had their isolettes, so their little like incubator spaceships. So there was a team of 4, and they were like over here
Against the wall, yeah.
Okay, so then this really nice anesthesiologist guy is standing behind me, and he was such a nice guy because you weren't in the room yet, and he was like talking me through what was going to happen. I've got my arm on like the splint. He's like, you know, your husband's going to go here, and then I've got my nurse who hasn't left my side since I went to labor and delivery. She was next to me from like 5 p.m. all the way through. Then we had my 2 doctors, and then Josh swishes in his dad suit, sits next to me, and at this point I am on like some sort of euphoric like epidural, I'm about to have a baby high.
Yeah, I sat down next to you and you're like,
hey. So I was I think it was the first time I was able to like relax too, which is really bizarre, but I had been in such pain for like over 24 hours at this point that it was just like I finally wasn't in pain, and
you were calm.
I was very calm.
You were very throughout.
Yeah.
Until like 4 hours after delivery. You were very calm and like optimistic. You're like, okay, we're gonna have a baby.
We're gonna do this. And the teams,
we're gonna have babies.
I mean, the babies had teams. It seemed very legitimate what was about to happen, and they all looked very nice and capable and smart, and they were. But so it's about 10 o'clock, and she was like, okay, it's time to start pushing. And so I pushed like maybe 3 or 4 times, and out popped Jack. So
at 10:12.
At 10:12 p.m. And I knew he came out because Josh like all of a sudden like gasps for air, and I look over and I was like, you're crying, and it was so sweet. Like he was just crying and like gasping for air, and
so she looks up, she goes, oh, this is just different. She tells it differently. She looks over and she's like, oh, you're crying. So do I like keep pushing? Do we take a break? Like, what do we do for this?
There was another baby, and he needed to also come out.
Yeah.
So I was back to business. Like it was sweet that he was crying, and that's touching.
Aww.
But there was still more that needed to be done. So they're like, "Yep." They get Jack out. He goes to his little team of people, and then I pushed. Like I had to push a lot for Rory.
It was 18 more minutes.
Yeah. So there was a lot of pushing. I don't remember how much, but Jack was like, hey, I'm here. And Rory was like, oh, I'm gonna take my time. When in reality, Rory was the one who ruptured the sac. Like he was the one that was in a hurry, but now that Jack was gone, he was like, I'll just hang out.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much more roomy in here. There's so much
more
room for
activities.
So he was out at 10:30. And he went over to his team, and at that point they were like, okay, we're getting ready to get Jack out. So the doctor was like, do you want to see him? And I was like, yeah. And so like they're like, here's the box. And they like wheeled the box past me, and they like stepped out of the way so I could like see through the plexiglass. And I just remember he was like really red and like very small.
Super red, super small.
And then Jack left. And then they were getting Rory ready to go. And at this point they're like doing the whole placenta thing. I don't know what they were doing down there, but
like kneading a pizza.
It was bizarre. So then they're ready to take Rory. They're like, Dad, do you want to come with us? And Josh looked at me. I'm like, yeah, go with the babies. I'm fine. And so he goes with Rory, and the doctors finish whatever they were doing down there, and then they leave, and it was just me and the nurse, and it was so quiet, and she was like over doing something, cleaning something, I don't remember, but I just remember laying there and like looking at the clock, and it's like 10:45, and I've just had 2 kids, and it was almost like the most unceremonious like moment, because it was just like I was alone.
Yeah.
And no one was there except for the nurse, obviously, but it was almost peaceful. And like I did it. I don't know what, because I haven't really seen them. I certainly didn't get to hold them. And it was just over.
Yeah.
So Josh went with the babies, and then they start to wheel me out. And then my mom and Mitch were standing there. I remember that. And then you came around the corner like almost right after.
Yeah, so I went to see the babies, and then I was just, because they were still like hooking them up to the walls and stuff, and it was into where they would stay in NICU, and so they were setting everything up, they were charging, they were hooking things up, and then I was just like bouncing between babies and like around people, and then one of the nurses was like, do you have a phone? Do you want to take pictures? And I was like, I got nothing. They're like, well, go get your phone, Dad. And I was like, okay. So I run away, and then that's when I came up.
Yeah, and that's when I saw you, and then Mitch and my mom were like coordinating getting you a phone, and then they took me back into my room, and at this point it was like 11:15 or so. And so Josh came back, he had pictures of the babies, and they were so cute and tiny and red and alien like.
Wrinkly.
but they were
It looked
so
like,
cute.
yeah, and they had like those head bruises that looked, they were like perfectly
It looked like
lined
they
up.
had hair.
It was lined up with like,
Yeah.
especially Rory. Rory had like the little crook thingy here. It was all in a bruise.
Yeah.
It was so bizarre.
So bizarre. And so I wasn't going to be allowed to go see them.
Adorable, but
Yeah.
bizarre.
I wasn't going to be allowed to go see them until my epidural had worn off enough. So I went back to my original room, and Josh and I were finally alone together for the first time because my mom and Mitch both left. The nurse finally left. I got a new nurse, but it wasn't like I'm not actively in labor anymore. They can kind of leave me alone for a few minutes. And so we just kind of sat there. And I feel like I think that was the happiest we were for a while. Because it was just like euphoric, right? I'm still riding this epidural high where I'm in no pain and I feel nothing and everything is happy. And we just had 2 kids and
we didn't have to do any of the paperwork yet.
yeah,
like,
nothing. It was just
enjoying
us enjoying the fact that we were parents and like something we weren't expecting to happen for quite some time. Because even after we got in the hospital, we still thought we had 10 weeks. We were there for 7 days.
I thought I was gonna get at least a solid like 5. Because I always 5 weeks. I'm always like, oh, all right, well, I don't know if we'll make it 2 months, 2.5 months.
We couldn't even make it 10 days.
I thought
So we just kind of like rode that high and we were so happy and then
we were like, let's do this again.
Yeah, we were like, we should have more kids right now. This is so
amazing.
fun. So around like 2:30ish in the morning, I was finally able to go and see the baby. So they wheeled me in my wheelchair, and when you go into the NICU, there's a whole process, right? You've got to check in, you've got to put your phone in a Ziploc bag, you've got to wash your hands with like acid, basically, all the way up to your elbows.
Oh, my knuckles.
And so they wheeled me into their little room, and I couldn't really see. I mean, their isolettes are fairly tall. They're meant to be used at standing level, and I was in a chair. And so I'm trying to stand up, and people are like, no,
Stop.
don't do that. I'm like, I still don't feel anything, so it's fine. But we just kind of like got to peek at them a little bit. When they're born that early, they're on what they call minimal stimulation for a while, which means not a lot of exposure to light, sound, touch, and minimal stimulation. So I couldn't touch them. I couldn't really see them. They had like
tissue. They had
yeah,
oh my God,
their skin is
this?
very thin and not ready to be exposed to the world. So they're in a full isolette that has like heating and humidity, and then they've got like these little bands that they wear over their eyes, and they were in plastic bags still at that point, kind of.
I think definitely when I took the pictures, maybe still
Yeah.
had 2.
I don't remember, but it wasn't a long visit. That's when I think it started to set in that our babies were really tiny and fragile and not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that day was hard.
I think it was a hard day. I think all of like we
were
crashed.
exhausted. We
crashed from the high, the endorphins and everything, and then I think reality really kind of set in. Because we had gone from saying it's just a poop, don't worry, to like, oh my God, this is amazing, to like, all right, let's yeah, I don't know.
So I stayed in the hospital for 3 days, or 3 days, 2 nights, I think. And then I had to leave. So I couldn't stay forever. I did have a natural birth with no complications, besides the fact that it was really early. And so I didn't have a need to stay any longer, even though I wanted to stay forever because the babies were there. I had to go home. So they checked me out of my room at noon, and we went to the baby's room, and we stayed there until like 10 or 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And then
you just kind of sit in the corner of the room because you can't touch them, you can't do anything, but at least you're in the same room as them.
So we just kind of sat there all day, and then we had to leave, and that was a rough time.
Yeah.
Because you're not, when you have a baby, you have all these thoughts. When you get pregnant, like you imagine what you see on TV, that you're gonna, go into labor and your water's gonna break and you're gonna have this big bag and you're gonna fight the whole way there while he's driving you to the hospital because you're screaming in pain and
you did this to me.
Yeah, and all of these things are gonna happen. I'd be a bumbling
fool, like putting him in the car seat and taking him home.
Yeah, and then like when you have them, they're gonna put them on your chest and you're gonna breathe them in. They're gonna be so disgusting and gross, and
sticky and smell amazing.
But you're gonna be so happy and then you're gonna go to your little room and you're gonna learn how to breastfeed and change diapers and give them their first bath and then put them in the car seat and go home. But we were going home empty-handed, and our babies were staying in the hospital for at least
10 weeks. At 25, they said at least 35.
Then they said they had to stay at 2/3 of people went home by their due date, so it would have been like 15 more weeks. And they were about 40 minutes away from us, and it felt wrong. It felt wrong to leave them. It felt wrong. Like, it just felt like something was taken away from us.
Yeah.
It didn't feel right.
Yeah.
But we knew for a fact that they were in the best place possible. Like, within those 3 days and the 7 days I had been there leading up, like, we didn't know about this hospital. We didn't know it existed. We knew nothing of it. It wasn't our plan. We had planned to have our baby somewhere else and have a completely different experience. But within that 7 days we were there,
I fell in love.
we knew that they were in the absolute right place with the absolute right people. Every person we encountered was incredible, and it felt wrong to leave our children in a hospital. But at the same time, we knew and we were comfortable that knowing who they were with.
Yeah.
And if we couldn't be with them, there was no better option than the people who worked at the hospital.
Absolutely.
So that was at least comforting. But we're gonna pause. That is the end of our pregnancy, birth, delivery story, because the NICU side of things is a whole nother ballgame. It was a 9-month-long adventure for us in 2 different hospitals with a plethora of different tests and milestones and surgeries and 2 babies who had a completely different path. Neither one of them rode the same ride. They were in the same place for most of it, but it was like 2 different roller coasters. So we are going to go into the NICU story in 2 weeks. So you'll get this video today, and then next week we're going to have a different video for you, and then the following week after that we will have our whole NICU story, and we will do a post on Instagram for you to ask us questions. What do you want to know about the NICU? What do you want to know about our journey and the roller coaster ride that we went on? And if you have those questions, you can leave them in the comments on this video too, and make sure to follow us over on Instagram. We're at Pieces of Bethany, and you can ask your questions on the post I'll put up there next week. So thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
I could stay forever when you're lying in my arms. My heart is open, it just took some time. Now I just hope that you'd stay for a little while. You fix what's broken when you make that smile. So just stay for a little